Good morning, y'all. This is Debbie Arnold with Dining with Debbie. It's a cold, wet, rainy day here today, and so I guess fall is finally making its way into my part of the state. I love fall. I love all the colors. I love the changes of the seasons, but I really am not a big fan of cold, wet, rainy days. Cold, I'm not a fan of. Anyway, I am using today to get caught up on some things I needed to do around here, as well as some cooking things, chores I need to do. One of which is making some more granola for us. I've already made a couple of batches of granola with you. This is another one of my favorites. This is an apple spice granola, and it has a little bit different combination of ingredients than my others do. I'm going to start by making a simple syrup of apple cider, dark brown sugar, and Steen's cane syrup. Now, if you don't have Steen's cane syrup, you can use molasses, you could use sorghum, although both of those are really strong, stronger than the cane syrup. Honey would work as well, but I like the little bit of fallish flavor that this cane syrup adds to the granola that I'm making. So I start with that in a saucepan, and I'm going to let that just reduce down until it gets really nice and syrupy. So I had a cup of apple cider, I had a third of a cup of dark brown sugar, and a fourth of a cup of the cane syrup. And I will let that stay here. It'll take about 45 minutes or so on low heat to reduce down and get nice and syrupy. And that's going to be the glue that holds our granola together. So while that's doing that, I'll prepare my other ingredients. I have 8 ounces of dried apples here. Now, dried apples have been hard for me to find this year. My Walmart hasn't had them. My Kroger hasn't had them. I haven't checked at Harps, but I should have. Anyway, I was in Trader Joe's, and so I found them. This is 8 ounces, like I said, and I have chopped them up into fairly good-sized pieces. And this will be the fruit that we add into our granola. We're going to start with about 3½ cups of rolled oats, or a combination of oats and barley, and that's a combination that we like. And then I'll be adding in our other ingredients as we go along. So after our syrup has been made, our simple syrup has been made, I'll come back and finish up the granola with you, show you how I do that in the oven, get it ready, get it nice and toasty for us. So I hope you are enjoying your fall weather, that you're getting out and about and enjoying the sunny days that we've had, and then taking advantage of those days when we have to be inside. You can see my cornbread I have over here that I made, and getting it ready to make some cornbread dressing for an event that I have next week. And so it'll be ready. I'll get it ready this week and put it in the freezer, and all I have to do then is finish it off by cooking it. So just little chores like that to help yourself get ahead can be such time savers later on. All right, so I'll be back in a little bit when our syrup is ready, and we'll put all this together. Our simple syrup is made, and to that I'm going to add in 1/4 cup of canola oil and stir that up really well. You'll have to forgive my Instant Pot in the background. I've got some chicken going to go in the chicken and dressing that I'm making also. So we'll stir that up really well. And again, this is our apple cider reduction with dark brown sugar in there, and the cane syrup that I told you about earlier. All right, I have 3½ cups of oats and about 1/2 cup of barley. So somewhere in that range, 3 to 4 cups is generally what I use. To that, I'm going to sprinkle in a generous teaspoon of kosher salt. And it's amazing, you know, that little bit of salt makes a bunch of difference in taste. Next, I'm going to add in a very generous teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of the apple pie spice that we mixed up earlier. And if you didn't see that, please go back and look up that recipe. Today when I was in the market, I happened to look at a jar of pumpkin pie spice, you know, those little jars that you get, and it was over almost $6.50. Y'all, you can make these spice combinations so much cheaper than you can buy them. So I encourage you to take a look at doing that. If you need some help with those combinations, just let me know. All right. You'll notice that I have added in some pumpkin seeds here. I happen to have about a third of a cup of pumpkin seeds left over, and I just thought, well, I'm going to toss those in there anyway. You know, granola, you can do that. Just make it to suit your taste. And to this, I'm going to add in about 2 cups of pecans. Ordinarily, I would use walnuts, but I don't seem to have any right now. I need to get some. Now, I didn't chop these up. You could roughly break them up, which is what I'm doing here. You can chop them up if you want to. I kind of like having them chunky and not try to make them too fine. I'm also going to add in some almonds. Almonds are really good with this granola. These are sliced almonds, and I'm going to add in about a cup of those. If you don't like nuts in your granola, you know, don't add them. All right, so I have my pecans all broken up, and my almonds are in here. You know, almonds and apples are a little bit in the same family. Not quite, but you know what I mean. Apples and roses are in that family, and almonds and peaches are in kind of the same family. Have you ever cracked open a peach seed? And if you have, then you'll notice that that kernel that's in a peach seed looks like an almond. So we got fruits going on here. All right. So we've got those stirred up, got our spice in there, and I can tell from the smell that I want just a little bit more of the apple pie spice in here. I'm going to sprinkle that in there, stir that up, break up these pecans as I go. Then I'm going to add in my reduction. And I like to stir it in really, really well. And if in doing so, I decide I need more oats, then I'll add more oats in here. This is a real relaxed recipe, y'all. All right. We're going to mix this all up and put it in the oven at 250 degrees for an hour. And we're going to stir it about every 15 minutes just so that it all gets good and toasty. If you press it down a little bit as you go, then you kind of end up with more chunks in there. Some people like it chunky. It doesn't really matter to me. I like it however. It makes such a good snack too if you want to take it hiking or when you're out walking or exploring. All right. Got that mixed up really well there. And now we're going to dump it onto our baking sheet. I've lined it with parchment paper just because it makes it easier for me to clean up, honestly. Smells good. I love the spices and all that we have with fall. They're just so fragrant. Excuse me. Spread it out evenly. And you notice I haven't added in the apples at this time. Those, you know, dried apples that we've cut up. I'll add those probably during the last 15 minutes or so of the baking time. Just because they would get too crusty if I put them in there now. And I'll also add in, I think, probably some sweetened dried coconut that's been toasted already. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. And maybe some dried cranberries or dried blueberries. It just depends on what I want. I like cranberries and apples together. So, and that's a good combination as well. If you want just apples in there, just put apples in there. But it's, you know, it's your granola, so make it like you want. All right, so this is going in the oven at 250 degrees. I'll set the timer for 15 minutes and we're going to cook it for a total of an hour. Then we'll set it out and let it cool completely before we store it. I don't have any trouble at my house keeping it fresh because we eat it so frequently that it just never gets stale. But you can keep it in the freezer if you want, and you can be a really nice, generous neighbor and package some up and hand it off to a neighbor, to your postman, or, you know, just be a good neighbor and be friendly and hand it out. Maybe there's a family that needs it. You always need to check about the nuts though, of course. All right, so into the oven for 1 hour total. We're going to stir it every 15 minutes. And I'll be back to when we add in the apples, and then we'll finish it up. Thanks so much. All right, it's time for us to take the granola out of the oven. It should be done by now. I added the apples in about halfway through the cooking time. And since they're dehydrated, they don't need to be in there the whole time. Otherwise, they would be too crispy by the time the granola got done. Anyway, and I have just sprinkled on some toasted coconut. That's an option if you want that on there or not. Anyway, it should be done, and we will take it out, let it cool completely, and then I will box it up and store it and get ready to eat it. But there it is. It's all nice and crispy and smells wonderful. It's got that little bit of apple smell in there too, with all the spices from the apple pie spice as well. So I hope you'll make this, give it a try, and let me know what you would do to change it, if your family likes it or not, just whatever you think about it. If you have any questions about it, give me a message, comment below, let me know. Thanks again for being here. I appreciate it.